Hello students, in my previous video I had given you an explanation till line number 20 of the poem Andrea del Sarto. Today I am going to proceed further. So here are the lines from 21 to 28. The line is having a very beautiful imagery. Let's have the lines first. Your soft hand is a woman of itself, and mine, the man's bared breast she curls inside. Now, a very beautiful and sensuous imagery is there in these lines. The narrator compares the soft hand of his beloved, which he is holding in his hands, as a complete woman in itself. And the way he is holding, he is just curling his hand over the hand of his beloved, and the position, he compares this position to the cuddling of a woman's body by a male's one. So he says, as if the woman is reclining on the bared chest of the male, in the same way I am having this feeling when I am holding your hand in my hands. Don't count the time lost, neither. You must serve for each of the 5 pictures we require. It saves a model. He says, don't worry about the time that is passing, because the time that you are spending in my company, it is going to be fruitful. For he is offering her to be the model for all the 5 pictures that he is planning to paint for her lover. He says it saves a model. He is going to present his own wife as a model for those 5 pictures which he is planning to paint. So, keep looking so, my serpentining beauty, round on rounds. Now here, he is just, you can say, praising the beauty of his wife, but it is quite unconventional. The terms that he is using, they are very unconventional. He is calling his beloved as serpentining beauty. See, there is a deeper meaning to this phrase. No doubt the beloved is beautiful, but she is faithless towards her own husband, and the husband is aware of this fact. Just like a serpent, which is very beautiful to look at, but it is venomous. It can cause death. Similarly, the nature of the beloved is that of disloyalty towards her husband. How could you ever prick those perfect ears even to put the pearl there? He again continues the same thing, praising the beauty of his beloved. He says she has got such perfect ears. He even wonders how could one be just having the courage to prick them. They are so soft to touch. How could anyone just imagine to prick them? Oh, so sweet. So, according to him, his wife is so perfect and pristine that he can't imagine why she should ever even pierce her ear to wear earrings. So, in these lines, the narrator is, you can say, praising the beauty of his wife, though he is fully aware that the wife is not at all loyal to him. So, as well as these lines are full of sensuous imagery, as I told you in the beginning, the above 2 lines, the beginning, you can say the lines at the very beginning, the 2 lines at the very beginning, they are quite sensuous in their presentation of the hand, which has been compared to that of a woman, complete woman, and the male hand to that of a male body. Let's proceed further. My face, my moon, my everybody's moon, which everybody looks on and calls his. Now, as I told you in the previous stanza, that he is praising the beauty of his beloved, but the method, the way in which he is praising is quite unconventional. It's not the traditional one. See, he is aware of this fact that the wife is not, you can say, faithful to him. So this fact, this tone is, you can say, this undercurrent is there in all his praises. So continuing the same vein, he says, my face, my moon, my everybody's moon. He, praising Lucrezia, he says the face of his wife is so beautiful that it is comparable to moon. He even calls it my moon, my everybody's moon. Now there is a kind of satirical touch in this phrase. He says, like moon cannot be for any one person. Its light is for everybody, for the whole humanity. In the same way, the wife was not faithful to her husband, so her beauty was not only limited for her husband. Rather, she used to just charm other males by using that beauty. So that's what he is saying. That's the implied meaning in these two lines. He says, my face, my moon, my everybody's moon. Now the face of my beloved, the face of my wife, is not only for me, is not restricted to for my own viewing only. Rather, she was open to everyone, which everybody looks on and calls his. And the greatest irony is that this, just like the moon, the face of beloved, or the, you can say, charms of his beloved, of his wife, they were for everyone to enjoy, to cherish. And this line implies that the beloved was having a, you can say, loose moral character, and I suppose is looked on by in turn. And he was damn sure, he was quite sure of this thing, that not only the beloved used to charm others, she behaved like an enchantress, but also people, especially the male members, perhaps it is only for the male members, other males, they also looked at her, they were enchanted by her beauty, and they were also, you can say, charmed by her appearance. So she used to sort of hypnotize others by her beauty, while she looks no one's. And this was the particular style of Lucrezia, that she used to look in such a manner that the person used to think that she is looking at him, whereas in particular she did not look at anyone, because she was having a bit of narcissistic effect. She herself was enchanted by her own beauty, that she did not have, you can say, any sort of care for what others used to felt. No one's, my very dear, no less. He says, for her everybody was equal. Even I was equal to her. I did not have any special place in her heart. You smile. Why? There's my picture ready made. Why are you smiling? He just poses a question. When she listened to all this, she smiled. Perhaps this was a satirical smile on her face. So he says, you smile. Why? There's my picture ready made. And during this, you can say, exchange of thoughts, he actually painted the picture. And he says, there's my picture ready made. There's what we painters call our harmony. And no doubt he was a very great painter So he says, this is the painting which we painters call our harmony. It was so beautiful. The thing that he painted was so beautiful that it can be called a harmonious blend of emotions that was being reflected from the painting itself. A common grayness silvers everything, all in a twilight, you and I alike. And now, as I told you in the very beginning, they are sitting at the window and it's the time of evening, twilight is approaching. So a common grayness, the whole scenario is having a grayish, you can say, background, and everything is covered by the semi-darkness, all in a twilight, you and alike. He says, you and I both are sitting in this twilight. You, at the point of your first pride in me, that's gone in me. But I, at every point. He says, I still remember that time when you met me and you were your first pride in me, when you felt pride for me, when you were really attracted towards me. I still remember, I still cherish that memory. That's gone, you know. Although he is very much aware of the fact that now the wife is not at all attracted towards him. So he says, I still cherish the memory when you first of all got attracted towards me. You felt pride for me. Though you have forgotten that thing now. But I, at every point. But I still remember that thing is still fresh in my memory, as it was on the very first day when we had met with one another. My youth, my hope, my art being all toned down to yonder sober, pleasant fireside. He remembers the time when they were both new to one another, when they first met. Initially, she was proud of who he was, that I told you, and what he was going to be. Perhaps she was quite hopeful of the monetary gains that she would be having after having the company of the lover, which actually did not fulfill, and she herself was responsible for that. I told you in the very beginning, in the intro part, because she forced her husband to leave France where he was earning well. The husband very well knows that now that thing is gone. Additionally, he says that back then he had his youth, his hope and art, because he was also at the prime of his youth. So he was having everything in his hands, and you know very well that when people like you people, for you nothing appears to be unachievable to you. You know that you are going to achieve all the things. You feel like that you can achieve all the things in this world. Same was the case of the narrator at that time. So he says, my youth, my hope, my art being all toned down. In the very beginning when I had met you, I had everything in my hands. I was young, I was hopeful, and I was a good painter. But now all this has been toned down. He says now things did not turn up the way I had imagined, so all the things have lost their charm. They have toned down to yonder sober, pleasant Faisal. Just like the fort of Faisal, in the very beginning, everything was very, you can say, even the fort that appeared very beautiful in the very beginning. In the daylight it was appearing very beautiful, but now as the night is approaching, it has lost its glory. In the same way, at the prime of my youth, when I had met you, I had everything in my hands. I was young, I was hopeful, I had art, but now everything has lost its charm, and now my position is very much akin to that Faisal, to that fort of Faisal. So throughout these lines, no doubt he is praising the beauty of his wife. Still, these lines clearly present the fact that he is aware of the faithlessness of his wife, and he says that earlier when he had met her, he was full of hope. he was full of energy, he had youthful vigor in him, and he was ready to paint. He knew that he will be doing wonders with his brush and paint. But now he had lost all that zeal because of the probably because of the faithlessness of his wife. Similarly, still he is cherishing those memories which he had when he the memory of his first meeting with his wife. But the wife has now lost total interest in him, and he is aware of this. So that's all for today.